I didn't think much of it when I saw the letter in my mailbox. It was a plain white envelope, unmarked, no return address, just my name, handwritten in careful, looping letters. The ink was smudged slightly, as if whoever wrote it was in a rush or maybe, nervous. I stood there for a moment, the morning sun barely cutting through the thick fog that clung to the street. It was quiet. Too quiet. I looked around, half expecting to see someone lurking, watching me, but there was nothing. Just the whisper of wind through bare branches and the distant hum of a lawnmower a few houses down. My fingers tingled as I reached for the letter, the paper cold and slightly damp from the morning dew. There was a weight to it, literal and otherwise. A heaviness that settled in my hand and coiled up my arm, like a whisper of something I shouldn't know. I brought it inside, setting it on the kitchen counter while I fixed my coffee. I watched it while the machine burbled and steamed, its plain white surface almost glaring against the marble countertop. My name stared back at me, unblinking. I couldn't shake the feeling that the letter was watching me too. It took me 15 minutes and 2 cups of coffee to work up the courage to open it. The seal was just a dab of wax, dark red, unmarked, like something out of an old Victorian novel. My thumb traced over it before I snapped it open, the sound sharp and final. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly into thirds. I unfolded it slowly, my eyes scanning the page. My breath hitched as I read the words. I know what you did. This isn't over. That was it. No signature, no explanation. Just that single, chilling sentence. I read it again, my mind tripping over the simplicity of it. I know what you did. This isn't over. I didn't even know what it was talking about. But as I stared at those words, a cold wave of dread washed over me, seeping into my bones. I checked the envelope again, shaking it out, holding it up to the light, looking for any clue, nothing. Just that single, accusatory line. I looked outside, but the street was empty. Nobody there. Nobody watching. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was waiting for my reaction. And that's when the phone rang. I nearly jumped out of my skin when the phone rang. It sliced through the silence like a knife, sharp and unforgiving. My hands shook as I reached for it, my eyes still fixed on the letter sprawled open on the countertop. Hello. I answered, my voice cracking slightly. There was silence on the other end. Not the kind of silence where you could hear breathing or faint static, just pure, absolute silence. I checked the screen to see if the call had dropped, but the timer was still ticking. Someone was there. Someone was listening. Hello. I repeated, louder this time, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Nothing. Not even a whisper. My fingers hovered over the screen, ready to hang up, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just stood there, phone pressed to my ear, eyes flicking back to that damn letter. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Who is this? I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. The line clicked, and the silence was replaced with a faint humming, like static but deeper, almost like a whisper hidden beneath layers of white noise. I strained to listen, pressing the phone harder against my ear. That's when I heard it. I know what you did. I stumbled back, dropping the phone. It hit the floor with a crack, the screen shattering, but I didn't care. Those words, those same words from the letter, echoed in my head, overlapping and distorting. My hands trembled as I picked up the letter again, reading the words slowly, deliberately, as if maybe they'd change. But they didn't. This wasn't a prank. It couldn't be. Nobody knew, nobody except me. And yet, here it was, written in careful, deliberate handwriting. Someone knew. I couldn't sit still anymore. I needed answers. I grabbed the letter, shoving it into my jacket pocket, and stormed outside. The fog had lifted slightly, but the sky was still that dull, washed-out gray that made everything look flat and lifeless. I scanned the street, searching for, what? A shadow? A stranger? I didn't even know. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every car that passed, every flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, it all felt deliberate. Planned. I made my way down the block, glancing back every few steps. Paranoia crept in like a slow-moving shadow, wrapping itself around my thoughts and squeezing. I pulled the letter from my pocket, staring at it again as I walked. The words seemed to shift under the light, almost like they were alive. I stuffed it back into my pocket and hurried my pace. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to move. I needed to outrun whatever this was. I turned a corner, nearly crashing into an old woman walking her dog. She looked up at me, her eyes narrowing. "You all right, dear?" she asked, her voice brittle and cracked with age. I wanted to tell her I was fine. I wanted to smile, wave it off, but the words got stuck in my throat. She glanced at my pocket, her eyes lingering a bit too long. I felt the letter shift slightly, pressing against my hip. I'm fine," I finally managed, stepping back. Her eyes never left my pocket. Her dog, a small thing with wiry hair, growled low in its throat. I backed away slowly, nodding, forcing a smile. She just watched me go. I could feel her eyes burning into my back long after I turned the corner. I resisted the urge to look back, but the feeling didn't go away. It only grew stronger. I couldn't shake the feeling of that old woman's eyes on me. It clung to my skin like damp fog, crawling under my clothes and settling there. Her gaze hadn't been curious or confused, it had been knowing. As if she'd seen the letter before. As if she knew exactly what was written inside. I hurried back to my house, locking the door behind me and drawing the blinds. My breath came in shallow bursts, adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I reached for the letter again, hesitating for just a moment before pulling it from my pocket. I unfolded it carefully, the paper whispering against itself as it straightened out. The words stared back at me, bold and unforgiving. "I know what you did. This isn't over." I flipped it over, running my fingers along the edges, searching for anything I missed. Maybe there was something written in invisible ink. Some kind of hidden message. I held it up to the light, nothing. I even considered running it under water or holding it over a candle flame, like I'd seen in those old detective movies, but something held me back. Then I saw it. It was faint, almost invisible. A watermark in the corner, embossed into the paper itself. It wasn't a logo, not a symbol I recognized. Just a number, 42. I traced it with my finger, my mind racing. Was it a code? A clue? I grabbed my laptop, setting the letter down carefully beside me as I typed watermark 42 into the search bar. Pages of irrelevant results popped up, printer manuals, water conservation articles, nothing useful. But I kept digging, scrolling through pages and pages until I found it, a forum. It was buried deep in a list of conspiracy threads, the kind you'd expect to see talking about Bigfoot sightings or secret government experiments. The thread was titled simply, 42 letters, who else has received one? My heart stopped. I clicked on it, my screen flickering for a moment before the page loaded. The first post was from 2 years ago. Someone named Watcher42 had written, "If you're reading this, you've probably gotten one too." A plain white envelope, no return address, just your name on it. Inside, a single sentence that seems to know something about you. If you're seeing 42 embossed in the corner, you're part of it now. There's no getting out. They're watching. There were dozens of replies. People recounting their own stories, sharing pictures of their letters, different handwriting, different words, but always the same watermark. Always 42. Some of them described strange phone calls, others mentioned figures standing outside their homes at odd hours. A few had even seen people following them, shadows that vanished when confronted. I leaned back, the chair creaking beneath me. I wasn't alone. There were others, people who had received these letters, who had been haunted by them. I scrolled further, looking for answers, but the thread just stopped. The last post was from 6 months ago, someone asking if anyone else was still around. No one had responded. My eyes flicked back to the letter, the words almost taunting me. I know what you did. But I didn't know what I did. I didn't understand why this was happening. My phone buzzed, jolting me out of my thoughts. I grabbed it, the screen lighting up with a message from an unknown number. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen before I finally tapped it open. The message was simple: it's time. Check your mailbox. My breath caught in my throat. I dropped the phone, stumbling backward until I hit the wall. My mailbox. Another letter. I peeked through the blinds, eyes locked on the little metal box at the end of my driveway. It was closed. Harmless. But I knew. I knew that if I opened it, I'd find another envelope. Another note. More questions. More dread. I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling as I unlocked the door. The cold air bit at my skin as I stepped outside, the wind whispering through the trees like it was calling my name. I walked slowly, each step heavier than the last. I reached the mailbox, pausing with my hand just above the latch. For a moment, I considered turning back. Locking the door. Pretending none of this had happened. But I couldn't. I had to know. I opened it. Inside was another letter. Plain white envelope. My name, written in the same careful, looping script. But this time, there was something else. A drop of red, smeared across the bottom corner. I swallowed hard, my hand shaking as I reached for it. It was warm. I yanked my hand back, staring at my fingers. They were stained red. Fresh. Sticky. Blood. I stumbled back, the letter still clutched in my hand, the crimson stain smearing slightly as my fingers pressed against the paper. My mind screamed at me to drop it, to toss it as far away as I could, but I couldn't. I was frozen. The wind picked up, swirling dead leaves around my feet, whispering through the trees. It sounded almost like voices, soft, hushed murmurs just beyond my understanding. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone watching me from the shadows, but the street was empty. Just me, the letter, and the wind that wouldn't stop whispering. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to look back at the envelope. My name was still there, pristine and delicate, looping gracefully across the front. The red smear, blood, had begun to dry, darkening around the edges. I didn't want to open it. But I knew I had to. My hands shook as I peeled back the flap, careful not to touch the bloodstain again. The envelope opened with a soft sigh, almost like it had been holding its breath. I slid the paper out, unfolding it slowly. This time, it wasn't just a single line. It was a message. You were chosen. I've been watching. Your sins are not forgotten. Your time is running out. I read it 3 times before I realized I was holding my breath. I sucked in air, stumbling back a step, the letter still clutched in my hands. The words stared back at me, bold and unapologetic. Your sins. What sins? I wanted to scream. To run. But something held me in place. A feeling, no, a certainty, that running wouldn't matter. Whatever this was, it would follow me. My eyes darted back to the mailbox, and that's when I saw it. A man. Standing across the street, half obscured by shadows. He was tall, his features hidden beneath the brim of a hat, his hands tucked into the pockets of a long coat. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching me. I dropped the letter, my breath coming in ragged bursts. My hand shot out, fumbling for my phone. I didn't care who I called. The police, my neighbor, anyone. I needed someone to know what was happening. But when I looked back up, the man was gone. Just, gone. I stumbled backward, slamming the door shut and locking it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely slide the deadbolt into place. I picked up the letter again, my eyes scanning the words for any clue, any hint of who this person was. I flipped it over, my fingers searching for that same 42 watermark. It was there, embossed in the corner, as if mocking me. I grabbed my laptop, heart hammering as I logged back onto that forum. 42 letters, who else has received one? I scrolled through the posts, searching for anyone who might have mentioned seeing someone. My fingers flew over the keyboard as I typed, has anyone seen him? Tall, black coat, wide-brimmed hat. The post went live. I waited. My breath loud in the silence. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. I refreshed the page, scanning for any kind of reply, but the thread stayed silent. I was alone. That's when my phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown number. My hands shook as I unlocked it. Stop looking. You don't want to find me. My stomach lurched. I threw the phone onto the couch, stumbling backward until I hit the wall. My eyes flicked back to the window. The blinds were still drawn, but I could feel it. That sensation. The unmistakable certainty that someone was out there. Watching. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then they went out. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and suffocating. I fumbled for the light switch, flicking it desperately, but nothing happened. I grabbed my phone again, its screen casting a dim glow, and made my way toward the kitchen where I kept the flashlight. I reached for the drawer, my fingers barely grazing the handle when I heard it. A knock. Soft. Deliberate. 3 times. I froze, my hand still on the drawer. My mind screamed at me to run, to hide, to do anything but answer that door. But my feet moved anyway, dragging me toward the sound. The knocks came again, slower this time, almost mocking. I swallowed hard, pressing my eye to the peephole. Darkness. Just darkness. I couldn't see a thing. My hand hesitated on the doorknob, heart hammering in my chest. One more knock. Louder this time. Against every instinct screaming in my head, I unlocked the door. It creaked open, and there on the doorstep was another letter. No one there. Just the letter, resting on the concrete like it had been waiting for me. My hands shook as I picked it up. This time, my name was written in red. My fingers felt numb as I held the letter, the red ink smearing slightly under my thumb. It wasn't just red, it was sticky, still fresh. I stared at my hand, the realization creeping up my spine like ice water. It wasn't ink. I swallowed hard, the metallic tang sharp and heavy in the back of my throat. I didn't want to open it. I wanted to burn it, rip it to shreds, toss it into the nearest fire and never think about it again. But I couldn't. My hands moved of their own accord, sliding beneath the flap, pulling it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly, just like the last one. I unfolded it slowly, my breath coming in short, ragged bursts. The words were scrawled in the same looping handwriting, except this time, it was longer. You were warned. But you didn't listen. You kept searching. Now you must understand. You are part of it. Your sins are not forgotten. This is your reckoning. I stumbled back, the letter slipping from my hands and floating to the floor like it weighed nothing. My mind spun, trying to make sense of it. Part of what? Reckoning for what? I didn't know what it was talking about. I ran my hands through my hair, pacing the living room, my eyes darting to the windows, the door, the shadows that seemed to stretch longer than they should. My phone buzzed on the table, and I practically leapt for it, desperate for some kind of explanation. Another unknown number. Another message. Look outside. I froze, my hand hovering over the screen. My heart pounded, echoing in my ears. I knew I shouldn't, but I did. I stepped toward the window, pulling back the curtain just a sliver. He was there. The man in the black coat. Standing beneath the street lamp, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. But he was closer now. Much closer. I staggered back, dropping the curtain, my breath coming in sharp bursts. My mind screamed at me to call the police, to call someone, anyone, but my fingers wouldn't move. I could still feel his eyes on me, burning through the walls. I grabbed the letter off the floor, flipping it over, searching for that 42 watermark. It was there. Always there. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers shaking as I pulled up the forum again. I scrolled frantically through the thread, looking for anyone still active. Then I saw it. A new post, just 3 minutes old, he's closer now. Watching. Is it happening to anyone else? I clicked on it, my hands trembling. The username was lastwatcher42. My mind flashed back to the original post I read, Watcher42. Was it the same person? Had they survived this long? I typed out a response as fast as I could. I see him too. Outside. Watching. What do I do? I hit send, my breath loud in the silence. Seconds ticked by. Then minutes. I refreshed the page, again and again, but there was nothing. No reply. It was like the message had been swallowed up, devoured by the same silence that had been chasing me since I first opened that envelope. I slammed the laptop shut, panic clawing at my chest. I looked back through the blinds, but the street was empty now. No man. No shadows. Just the quiet hum of streetlights flickering in the fog. My phone buzzed again, and I snatched it off the counter. A new message. Check your mailbox. I nearly screamed. My hands shook as I typed back, who are you? The response came immediately. The one who remembers. You should too. My stomach twisted. I didn't understand. Remember what? I hadn't done anything. I paced back and forth, my mind scrambling for answers, but coming up empty. My eyes drifted back to the window, to the mailbox. It felt like it was staring back at me, like it knew I had no choice but to look. I grabbed my keys, heart pounding, and swung the door open. The wind howled through the trees, cold and biting. I half ran, half stumbled to the mailbox, my hands shaking as I pulled it open. Another letter. This time, there was no name, just a symbol on the front, an eye, drawn in black ink. I opened it right there, my breath clouding the air in front of me. Inside, the words were scribbled, frantic and uneven. You know what you did. Stop pretending. I dropped it, staggering back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I knew then that it wasn't going to stop. Not until I remembered. Not until I stopped pretending. But the thing was, I still didn't know what I was supposed to remember. The letter lay at my feet, its words still echoing in my mind, you know what you did. Stop pretending. But I didn't know. I couldn't remember. My breath came in sharp, jagged bursts as I stumbled back inside, locking the door behind me. I stared at my shaking hands, smeared slightly with red from the first envelope. My fingers twitched, muscles tight with tension I couldn't shake. I grabbed my phone, fingers flying over the screen as I dialed the only person I could think of, my brother. He picked up after the third ring, his voice groggy. Hey, you alright? I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know. I think someone's watching me. I keep getting these letters. There was silence for a moment. I could hear him shift in his bed, his voice suddenly sharp and awake. What kind of letters? I swallowed hard. Plain white envelopes. My name on the front. No address. Just, weird messages inside. And there's always a number, 42. Do you know what that means? The line went dead silent. I pulled the phone away from my ear, checked the screen, still connected. You there? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Did you say, 42? Yeah, why? He sucked in a sharp breath. We don't talk about 42. What do you mean? Who doesn't? His voice cracked. You don't remember, do you? My skin prickled, a chill spreading up my spine. Remember what? The line was silent. Then he whispered, so softly I almost didn't catch it. I'm sorry. I really am. What are you talking about? I shouted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. What am I supposed to remember? Tell me. But the line had gone dead. My phone screen blinked back at me, call ended. I stared at it, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What the hell was happening? I paced the room, the letter still lying crumpled by the door. My brother's words echoed in my mind, we don't talk about 42. But I needed to talk about it. I needed answers. I grabbed the letter, my hand still shaking, and unfolded it again. The words stared back at me, colder this time. Unforgiving. You know what you did. Stop pretending. I stopped pacing, my breath caught in my throat. A memory, hazy and fleeting, brushed the edges of my mind. I couldn't grasp it, just flashes. Night. Fog. Something heavy. Something being buried. My stomach churned. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my palms into my temples, but the images kept coming. I staggered backward, my legs hitting the edge of the couch. I sat down hard, the breath knocked out of me. What was that? I didn't understand. I tried to recall, tried to piece it together, but it slipped away every time I got close. Then, the doorbell rang. I shot up, my heart slamming against my ribs. The curtains were still drawn, but I could see the shadow of someone standing there, perfectly still. I took a shaky breath, creeping toward the door, my hands barely managing to stay steady as I reached for the handle. I cracked it open, just enough to peek outside. There was no one there. But something was. Another envelope. This time, it was larger, thicker. My name was still written across the front, but the handwriting was different. More jagged, like it had been scrawled in a hurry. My hands shook as I picked it up, feeling the weight of it. I opened it right there in the doorway, the cold air biting at my skin. Inside was a stack of papers, neatly clipped together. I thumbed through them, my breath catching as I saw the pictures, grainy, black and white, but unmistakable. They were of me. There I was, standing in the fog, shovel in hand. Another picture, me, in my backyard, dragging something heavy. Another, I was in the woods, dirt smeared across my clothes, my hands. The final image was of a grave. Freshly dug. My footprints clear in the mud. A note slipped out from between the pages, fluttering to the ground. I picked it up, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold on to it. You buried it. But I dug it back up. The world spun. I stumbled backward, collapsing onto the floor as the pictures scattered around me. I tried to scream, but the sound stuck in my throat. I didn't remember this. I couldn't remember this. But the images, they were real. My phone buzzed on the table, and I turned to look at it, my vision blurring. A single message flashed on the screen from the same unknown number. Check your backyard. My hands went cold. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. But I was already moving, my feet dragging me toward the back door. I threw it open, the cold air slapping me in the face. My eyes locked on the far corner of the yard, on the mound of freshly turned earth. And that's when I saw him. The man in the black coat, standing just beyond the fence, his hat tipped low. He lifted his hand slowly, pointing directly at the ground. At the grave.